I'm now going to talk about choosing pots for various trees. This is a larch which needs to be put in a better pot and at a slightly different angle. So this is the angle of planting, and this pot really is not quite right for this tree. And I always tell people the best way to find pots for the tree is to take your tree to the place where pots are sold and put a pot against the tree. Now, to give you some ideas to how I would choose the pot. First of all, with a tree like this, the size is the most important thing. You can't, let me just exaggerate a bit. Now, if I were to put it in this pot, yeah, that's clearly too big, isn't it? It's too big, too deep, that wouldn't be right. And then if I were to try and squeeze it into this pot, that would be a bit too small. Although, mind you, in Japan, they would probably get it in here. The Japanese always underpot their trees. I always say that. Maybe they have a different sense of aesthetics. And then this one, if we use, it would be too big. Although it's a nice style, it would be too big for it. So the style of pot I'm looking for really is more of a rectangle pot, but with soft corners like this. But if you again look from this side, this is the front of the tree. This is the style of pot, but this pot is too big. So I'm going to look for something smaller than this. Let me just go through the different options of pots. Mind you, I haven't said anything about the color. Because this is a Japanese larch and the autumn color is that beautiful butter yellow or golden yellow, in the autumn, a colorful pot may not be bad for this tree. But this pot, of course, is too big. I'm just exaggerating. But that is the color you could use for a larch. Although the larch being a deciduous conifer, in fact, both the Chinese and the Japanese call it a drop leaf larch. Translated from the Chinese and the Japanese, they call it a drop leaf larch. Now that pot is about the right color, but again, too big. See, it's too deep and it's much too big. I always tell people that although they come here, they see the thousands of pots that are around, you will always find it difficult to locate the exact pot for the tree. Let me just stop for a while. So, looking around, I think I may have found a pot, although again, when you place the tree against the pot, it looks a bit too long. It may look a bit too long, but I will keep it as a near candidate for this tree. I've seen a very nice Japanese tokoname pot. I've seen another pot, it's a Chinese high-quality yixing pot. This again looks a bit too long, but possible. So it's really like choosing clothes, you know, you've got to get it absolutely right, otherwise it won't look right with the tree. Now, I've seen one Japanese tokoname pot. This is called one of these silver fox pots. And these, for those of you who are new to bonsai, this pot costs £195. They're very expensive pots. I think that would look right. The size is right. So just the slight difference makes so much difference to the look of the tree. So we'll pot it up. I'll take it to the potting area, and when I've teased a bit of the root, I will put it against those three pots and see how they look. So this is how I choose these pots. While we're doing this video about choosing pots for the trees that I'm going to work on, very coincidentally, we have a customer who's come all the way from Hastings, which is about, I would say, 60 miles? No.
But yeah, about 60 miles. Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Lance.
Okay.
I brought in this little tree here just to get
Okay, you made this.
Nursery stock, but it was a big
nice.
puffball before.
Very nice. Very nice, beautifully shaped. And I see you put some landscaping effects with the slate and also
Just a little slate.
very aesthetic. So, what sort of pot did you have in mind? Tell me, round pot, rectangular pot, or what?
I think a rectangular pot would,
All right,
would be
okay,
good.
let's look. So the size we have to choose will be, don't worry, these are only plastic pots, I'm looking for the size. Now a pot like that is too big, okay? Agreed? That is much too big for that.
Yes.
Okay, much too big. That is more or less the size you want, that size.
Okay.
So let's look at rectangular pots about this size. And as for color, because it's evergreen, by tradition, mind you, I always say by tradition, the Chinese believe in tradition a lot. So they would think of putting it in that color pot. But again, for that tree, it's quite deep, the pot
It is.
which is in. So I wouldn't like to cut the roots too much. So this depth might just be right. So that's a possible candidate.
Okay.
That's a possible candidate. And
That's slightly deeper.
that's slightly deeper. I think this is okay. But you wouldn't go anything deeper than that. Let me just show you what else. In fact, eventually, I know that you should really go for unglazed pot, but even a cream pot, no, that's a bit too big really. You need to get smaller than that. Smaller than that. But you can't do it in one go. You have to do it gradually. I would say, eventually, this size pot would be the ideal pot for that tree. If I
Okay.
look at it like that, you
Yeah.
see? You get the idea?
I do.
You see? The scale is just right. So although you thought of rectangular, this is an oval pot, so this is a very good pot for that tree. In fact, if we were careful, you can have a go, I can help you pot it, and we could probably get it
Get it
into
in there.
that. And this one, including a tray, is only 19 pounds. And of course, if you wanted to go the whole hog, I wouldn't go any further. Just to show you some of the other options. Now these are very expensive Japanese tokoname pots.
This one's quite.
Yeah, nice pot, but I think it's a bit too
Too
big
big.
for it. It's too big for it. So, as I say, in a shop which is large as this, with thousands of pots, it's always as narrow as one or two pots that fit the bill. So you have a choice, I would say, of this and that. And
I like the cream
you
colour
see,
one.
this
Peter.
is the better pot, okay?
I do.
So you see how we choose it, huh?
Yep.
So the size, color, and although it's white, it goes very well with that. It's not jarring or anything, so this would fit. Another possibility in time to come, let me just show you. This is a very popular pot that we sell. It's called a lotus style pot.
Lovely pot.
That is a lovely pot for it. And of course, if you can put it in that, you can get a landscape in that with more rocks, you know, tear it. This is also possible.
It's a lovely pot.
Shall we go for that?
Shall we?
Yeah, this is possible. And put more rocks to slope it.
Yes.
So there you go. So this is how we choose the pot. So we had two possibilities. So let's have a look at this tree. I think you've kept it in its original nursery soil, which is quite good.
Peter, yes.
I always tell people you don't always have to use bonsai compost. If a tree has been growing well in its original soil, the chances are that it will continue to grow well, certainly for another couple of years. Don't let this grow. This is called pearlwort. It's not a moss.
Right.
And they have seeds that scatter, and it can become very invasive. See all these roots? That's not mycelium. This is
that's
the
part of
roots
the root.
from the pearlwort.
Right.
Mycelium only grows on pine trees and beech trees. So this is not mycelium. So the roots haven't gone below. So I can easily take it down to this level. So we can quite easily fit it into that pot. So no big deal. So all I have to do, so we haven't cut any roots, so the tree won't get stressed at all. People say, oh, you've only got to do it in February and you can't do it at any other time. But if you are sensible, you can judge for yourself, what have I done? I've taken no root off, isn't it? So it's perfectly safe to do that. Okay, let's prepare the pot. Let's tie it in. So normally we prefer to tie the trees in so that they don't fall out of the pot. And good pots have these small holes which are called the tying holes. So these are for passing the wire through to tie the tree in. We put a bit of mesh. Stay there while I bring the mesh. I like the style, it's like a landscape style, which is very nice. I remember when I first started doing bonsai, the chairman of the British Bonsai Association always used to tell us that think of a bonsai as a painting, as a picture. You're creating a picture.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just a tree. So if you think in those terms, you can always end up with the right result because you're making an artistic tree. So don't forget that in China, it's not just a tree in a pot, it's an artistic pot plant. That's what bonsai is called, artistic pot plant. I always remind people that back in the 70s and certainly even up to the 80s, no one ever bothered tying their trees in. It's only recently that people have become more meticulous in tying it in. But they were just planted in deep pots, and if they're in deep pots, the chance of the tree falling out are much reduced, so no one ever bothered tying it in. And since this was the original soil and the tree has been growing so well in this, I would just put this soil back. And notice you had a piece of rock in there.
Sitting here, Peter, before, I think.
That's right, yeah.
Oh, it may be a bit too big now.
It was a new addition, so
Okay.
it's quite nice without, I think, actually.
All right. Let me just put some other soil in. Just wait a minute. So I just put a tiny piece of rock. This is the original moss. You happy? Come and
Very happy,
say
yeah,
something.
no, great.
Yeah. So you're on YouTube.
Really like it. Thank you, Peter. It
All
looks
right.
lovely.
Okay. There you go.
Brilliant, thanks.
Pleasure.
Beautiful.
Okay. So let me show you what this larch looks like. You think it's a small tree. It's not a small tree. It's at least, I would say, 42 centimeter tall. And it's got a massive trunk. In terms of inches, that's about 3-inch diameter trunk. The nebari is still quite nice. Some very judicious carving there. And we've created an informal upright tree with lots of character. So this is a superb tree in a lovely pot.